Hello, my fellow hunters! How are you enjoying Alatreon? I really hope you answered in that gap there, otherwise this is just weird for everyone. And I guess in the spirit of including everyone, Alatreon, how are you enjoying the hunters?
Escaton
Oh no, please, please don't, no!
Judgement!
Oh yes, I think it is more than reasonable to declare that Alatreon has been quite divisive amongst us hunters, to say the least, and to say the most, well, that's the rest of this video.
That's hilarious.
So let's begin by talking about, like, 95% of his fight, because I think that 95% of his fight is truly exemplary. It is intense, it is heart-pounding, it is epic, and above all, it is fun. Alatreon is a legendary monster amongst legendary monsters. The Black Dragons, him the blazing one of all elements, and, well, now actually all elements with the addition of water, which is just great. He has an entire arsenal of new elemental-based attacks, all of which are colossal in scale, they are impactful, they are simply worthy of him, which is something I don't think could be said about most of what he did, well, in the older games. He has been given that lovely sheen of polish that Iceborne and World gives monsters. He looks better, the fight flows better, he is more fluid in how he operates, how he moves, the feeling he puts across, the arena itself, the burning skin is incredible, the frozen skin is incredible. I never thought I'd be in a position in my life to say that sentence, but I suppose that is completely okay. And all in all, I think he is a wondrous addition to the game. However, there are two words that may very well put quite the little asterisk next to everything I just said. And let's be honest, it's what we're all here to talk about. Those words being Escaton Judgement. And look, I think for a fair number of reasons, this attack has been received as a lot more frustrating than perhaps it actually is. Now, don't get me wrong, there are elements to it that are seriously frustrating. But let's talk about it conceptually as a bit of Monster Hunter monster design. It is a binary attack. It's a 1 or 0. It's a you fail or you succeed. There's no kind of middle ground, no gradient in between, there's no degrees. There is, you are living, triumphant and bold! Oh, you are on the ground, sad and dead. So when you have this situation where the player, every time this goes off, is left feeling either extreme yes or extreme oh, you start to foster a scenario where that extreme yes becomes extreme oh, relief. Because the opposite result, the unfavorable result, is just so awful. And then we have a world where every time this ability happens, you're either really annoyed or you're just really relieved. Which then leaves us in a world where the ability kind of is adding nothing positive to the fight. And that's what happens when you don't have degrees of success as an option. Though admittedly, it's not like attacks like this don't have a history in Monster Hunter. They've just not been executed quite so, well, all or nothing. A good example is Valstrax's Round the World. Once he takes off, you are in one of those, well, scripted moments. This is happening, I have to do a thing. And that thing is is in about 5 seconds. He is going to come crashing into me, and I need to mitigate that probably with a dive, or I am going to be absolutely destroyed down to like 5% health. But the very much key of what I just said there was destroyed down to 5% health. Because now you're in a very moment, because you are holding on by a slither. You have to be perfect now. You have to find a way to heal without taking any other hit. The cost of being hit by his ultimate attack is knowing that you cannot make even the slightest slip up or you are going to die. But you can still recover, which means that attack is exciting, because dodging it is fuck yeah, but getting hit by it isn't. It's okay, I can do this, and if you do this, it's another fuck yeah, and if you don't, it's I could have saved myself, I just panicked. You know, it's on you. It doesn't feel like the game just chose to, well, kill you, and that's why degrees of success are important. This exact same attack, this Escaton Judgement, but the full power one, if it was not, let's say, reasonably, but possible to survive, right? With coordinated effort, with healing, with a real, you know, come on! If you could just pull through, everyone burning on tiny amounts of health, but still standing, but now in a desperate situation where he can easily pick you off one by one, then that would be fine. And if you do get the elemental damage, if you do lower it, well then you mitigate it loads and you're in control of the fight. But there has to not just be a hard do this or you die, because that's just frustrating. But the thing is, this has happened because of hunter power creep. Because we can restock constantly, thereby giving us infinite potions on hunts, it means there's no longer a war of attrition. It means damage that isn't lethal doesn't matter, because you just keep healing. I've talked about this at length, but a number one change that needs to happen going forward is no item box on the hunts. Then damage matters, then you don't need to get ridiculous with monster attacks, and you can start having the type of intimate fights that we had in the old games. But of course, Alatreon, you can't Farcaster. The only way to restock is to die. So it wasn't even necessary for this to be so deadly. Something putting that much damage on you, eating that much healing when you have no way of getting more, is a big enough punishment for not meeting his threshold and weakening it. So it's again quite mystifying why it does just so brutally much damage. Now, whether you think it's harder in multiplayer or harder solo is, well, up to you to decide based on your experience, but it is certainly reasonably killable in any given group size. And look, as I said at the start of this, I don't think it is inherently bad attack. I think conceptually it's absolutely badass. You have this black dragon unleashing his full black dragon might, and it is apocalyptic, and it should be, and that's fantastic. But I also think there's a world in which it's completely okay that it does as much damage as it does, that it just kills you if you don't meet his threshold, if they'd done a better job at actually explaining to people through the little tip pop-ups, through the NPC callouts, what's actually going on. Because I've seen so many people just plain confused at the fight. People who don't even know about the elemental threshold, the stagger to weaken it, and are just there like, how the hell do you survive that? I don't understand. And whether you agree or not that it is a good or bad thing that it is essentially forcing people to switch to elemental builds, if it is a good or a bad thing to make weapons that traditionally just use raw, or more recently blast with Saphi or Brachydios, actually have to go out and get elements, whether you agree that
Me greatsword, me sad, me have to use shiny things now,
is a actual, valid criticism, it is kind of jarring to suddenly have to have your whole playstyle adjusted because of this one monster out of nowhere, and the fact that it doesn't do, again, a great job of telling you that you need to go get elemental really hard here. Because look, this is how the flow is supposed to go. This is how it actually works. You start the fight and he will be either in ice or fire mode depending on the version of the event quest. That is consistent, that will always happen. So you arrive with the element that counters that mode. You then do enough elemental damage which will stagger him. He will go to dragon mode. While in dragon mode, the horns are breakable, and when you break the horn, it will lock out the mode that resists your element. So he starts in ice, you hit him with fire, you go to dragon, you break his horn, he will no longer go fire mode, and he will go back to ice, so you can then hit him with fire, stagger him, and repeat. So instead of Alatreon being unstable or random, or even in control himself, what they have done is given us, the players, the ability to manipulate his states and his elements in order to manage his world-ending blast. And that, in a vacuum, is a really cool idea. And it is a really cool idea, and it does work. With proper understanding of the fight, it is easy enough to hit those thresholds, weaken Escaton Judgement, and have a grand old time. But we have ended up in a situation where a hard you die if you fail mechanic is here without a sufficiently well done job at explaining that's how it works to a lot of people, so you end up with just a lot of annoyed, well, this is bloody ridiculous, feeling throughout the community. So essentially that's kind of my thoughts on it. I feel like the attack and the mechanical flow of the fight based around it is a really cool idea, and I think it's really interesting in how they've chosen to implement it. I think that there should be less hard death if you fail, more it just puts you in a really bad position, so you have that heroic moment to maybe save yourself, which is a really good thing, and I think it really should be conveyed a lot clearer and more definitively. Hey, this is how Alatreon works, this is what you need to do in order to not have a confusing initial experience. So there is definitely merits to both sides of this, but I think we have ended up in a world where a lot of people hold the opinion of either Alatreon is a great fight even in spite of Escaton Judgement, or Alatreon would be a great fight, but there's Escaton Judgement. And that's kind of sad, because I think without changing how it works in the hunt at all, they could have set this up to make it, whoa, Alatreon's an amazing fight, and God, taking control and managing Escaton Judgement is so much fun. But it's just kind of fallen on the side of so many people just being destroyed by it and left there thinking, how the hell do I deal with that? And that is definitely a shame for such a famous, incredible, badass monster. So as far as I'm concerned, I love the Alatreon fight. I love how Escaton Judgement works, and the mechanics surrounding that, and how you can manage it. But I don't believe there's a world in which monster one-shot attacks, such gamey, this is happening, deal with it in the one specific way you can deal with it or die, should be the norm for how we design these creatures and their encounters going forward. I think that Escaton Judgement is frustrating, but I don't think it's nearly as frustrating or fight-ruining as it has come across, and the only reason it's come across that way is not the best job of explaining what exactly is going on. So at the end of the day, I still think Alatreon in implementation is fantastic and one of the best Monster Hunter experiences I've had, but I totally get the outcry when it comes to his big Nova. Let me know what you guys think. I realize I just rambled there. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. I hope this kind of made sense. A lot of people have been asking me my thoughts on the Judgment and all of that jazz, so I hope these count as them. I realize that may have been a little bit all over the place. Let me know how you're feeling about it, the fight, Escaton, and all of that good stuff. But until then, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Bye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.